and welcome to Markets Today. I'm Lata Venkatesh. With me is Surabhi Upadhyay. And today went to the bulls. No taking away from that. 8,500, which has been such an important resistance level, was breached and breached emphatically. We crossed that line at maybe 10 in the morning and remained above 8,500 for the better part of the day. The Sensex and the Nifty are up about almost a percent, 0.8, 0.9%. The midcaps were a bit of an underperformer, but really one shouldn't complain. The number of advancing stocks were more than the number of stocks that fell. So all told, a good day for the bulls.
Absolutely, Lata. Well, let's quickly start with the headlines. A solid session on Dalal Street as blue chips lead from the front. The Nifty regains 8,500 and the Sensex zooms over 250 points.
But midcaps refused to join the party. Rebound in crude prices spooked oil-related stocks. Banks also saw some profit taking.
Monsoon fears refuse to die down. Rainfall is 33% deficient so far this month, but the Met Department expects rains to pick up by the end of the month.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi uses his charm offensive to woo states on the land bill, meets 16 chief ministers and tells them they have the power to improve the central legislation if they want. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley says the centre can't wait endlessly for consensus. Well, those were some of the headlines that dominated the markets. Here are the experts that we have lined up on the show for you. Expert investor Atul Suri, well, not quite an investor, he's a technical expert. He joins us with his take on the markets. Coal Secretary Anil Swarup joins in as well to tell us about the government's plans to increase coal production. We'll also listen in to DS Pai from the Meteorological Department on its monsoon forecast. We'll also get you some stock calls from Norwegian portfolio manager Christopher Stensrud. All right, for now, let's straight away get to the day's trading action. A solid session on Dalal Street as major indices reconquered crucial levels in trade today. The Nifty surged past 8,500, rallying close to 1%. Blue chip stocks led from the front. The Sensex also rallied over 260 points. The index is now sitting quite comfortably above 28,000. Midcaps did not join the rally, however, today. That index ended with gains, but it was much lesser compared to the blue chips. Now we've got Anuj joining in with the day's market highlights. Anuj, what do you think led to the sharp rally today?
Not really a surprise. Actually, the market played as per script. It looked like from the data that the market had one move left towards that 8,500 to 8,550 mark, and that's what happened. It closed at the high point of the day, so that's the good news for the bulls. And the fact that the market did this without any kind of help from the bank Nifty was actually even more heartening. Large caps led the way today. It was all about blue chips. Mid caps, which have been outperforming so far, they took a bit of a backseat. In fact, let's talk about the stocks that led the market rally. In terms of heavyweights, the support for the market came from these 3 or 4 stocks. HDFC, which was up 1.5%, Reliance, which was up more than 1%, and Tata Motors, which saw some short covering, was up about 2%. IT stocks, as a sector, IT did well. TCS, Infosys, Wipro, all of them up between 1 to 2% in today's trade. Then, of course, we are talking about some stocks which made new lifetime highs. And, you know, they've been doing this almost on a daily basis. Maruti Suzuki, Coal India, Larsen & Toubro, all were at new lifetime highs. In terms of other gainers, we had stocks like Asian Paints, Ultratech Cement, Tata Power, all these stocks higher by about 2% in today's trade. On the mid-cap front, there were some gainers today. Stocks like Educom, which was circuit up, Mercator was up 13%, and Amtech Auto was up 9%. But there were some losers as well in today's trade, mostly on profit booking. DCB Bank, reacting to numbers, was down 6%, MRPL down 4%, and GP Associates down 4% as well. So 8,500 is taken out. The key would be, can the Nifty trade above that over the next 3 or 4 days to have a sustained breakout?
Thanks a lot for that, Anuj. I know that question is on everyone's mind, and perhaps one person who is best placed to answer it is a technical expert. Atul Suri says that India is currently in a consolidation phase, but he is actually maintaining his bullish stance on the market.
Maybe we are in, I don't like this term, but a bit of a consolidative kind of space where we are on the index not doing much. But I still retain my bullish stand. At stock levels, at portfolio levels, things are doing very well. And also the kind of stocks that are moving. You know, the mid-cap space is a little dangerous sometimes. It can get really speculative and unknown stories lead. That's also not happening. What's really happening is some quality stocks are moving. This capital goods move, I think, is very impressive. Oil and gas. I mean, that is up 3% plus. So the favorites, the darlings, which was, you know, your pharma and IT have corrected for sure, but I think pharma has again started picking up. People have got very bearish on IT and the stocks have gone battered. We are getting into results season, and I also see that some people have been underweight or being short in those positions. So if things are not bad, even if they are half decent, I feel that this could actually lead to a bit of a short covering rally thereabouts.
Okay, that's Atul Suri, optimistic on the market. Moving on now, it may have covered the entire country ahead of schedule, but the monsoon has lost its intensity, at least for now. As per the latest data collated by the Meteorological Department, the deficiency in total rainfall has risen to 33% in the month of July, taking the overall number to 5% below normal. Southwestern India is the worst affected, with total deficiency now standing at 20%. CNBC TV 18 spoke to DS Pai, the director of the long-range forecast at the Met Department, and asked him about how soon one could expect the monsoon to revive in the country.
So far, the deficiency in July only is about 33% till yesterday. So if you account today's rainfall, it can go further lower. And we are expecting much improved recovery of monsoon only after around 23rd. So only in the last week of July, much increased rainfall activity may be there in the central India and South Peninsula.
All right. The biggest worry is, of course, for food inflation. The last number we got in June was not very good at 5.8%. But the important point to note is that most of the sowing is over. And even if this dry spell remains only till 23rd July, as the Met Department said, and rains start after 23rd July, we would still be able to save crops in most of the country. As a season, we are deficient only by 6%. But only for the month of July, we are deficient by 33%. Now, the July rains are most sensitive to food prices. This is some modeling which economists tell us. So if this 33% deficiency continues up till the end of July, we could have a problem with food prices. But if it gets corrected after 23rd July, then we could still have a salutary impact on food prices. So really, the Met Department's forecast that after 23rd, and SkyMet's also is around that same time, 21st, if rains do pick up, then we still don't have to worry. And I think that's exactly the scent that the stock markets have picked up. We still don't see the deficient monsoon worrying the stock markets. Maybe they're holding out for one more week. If we don't get monsoons resuming by the end of this month, by the last week or by the 20th, then I think the stock markets will lose their verve.
Now, there's fingers crossed for sure over the next couple of days as we are waiting for that revival to kick in by the end of the month. But for now, let's move to some stock-specific action. Zee Entertainment reported a good set of earnings for the first quarter, but the stock was off the day's high as the decline in margins was a little sharper than what was expected. Manglam Malu is now joining in with the detailed analysis. Manglam.
Well, thanks a lot for that. Zee Entertainment did post a decent set of numbers. The stock spiked in trade as prima facie there were no negatives in the numbers. However, the stock did give up all its gains as the street understood that the EBITDA margin decline was slightly more than anticipated. The ad revenue growth was the key positive. That one came in higher by 25%. Remember, this one comes on account of a higher base as well. Last year there were general elections, so the ad revenue grew on a higher base. And this growth has been aided primarily by their new channels, Zindagi and Ant TV, and also their sports business. Also, the EBITDA margin declined about 610 basis points year on year. This was compares to our CNBC TV 18 poll of a decline of 550 basis points. Now, this is primarily on account of increased content costs for their new channels. Also, we must keep in mind that the margins have improved 310 basis points sequentially as last quarter saw one-off expenditure related to channel launch costs. Also, subscription revenue grew at 12% in line with the management's estimate of 11 to 12% for this year. However, digitization benefits have been slower than anticipated. And finally, the net profit growth was primarily aided by the increase in top line and increase in other income as well. The other income came in at 68 crore versus 39 crores, while Zee Sports also added about 1.5 crore to gains versus an expectation of 10 to 15 crore of losses. The management still maintains that this business will make a loss in FY16. On the back of all these things, the net profit was up 16% at 244 crores versus CNBC TV 18 poll of 214 crores. Additionally, we also spoke to the management and asked them if the ad revenue growth is sustainable, and here's what they had to say.
our endeavor will constantly be to grow ahead of market. We'll need to see how the market pans out, but indeed, these are there's nothing one time in this growth yet. So I would like to believe that we would want to get there sustainably over the next few quarters as well.
All right. So clearly, the Z stock not getting terribly disappointed by that 600 basis point fall in margins, preferring to look at the growth in ad revenues and subscription. But Mangalam, don't go away. Also give us a quick wrap of all the other stocks that were in the news today.
Well, among the other stocks that were in focus, Zensar Technologies had a steady quarter. That stock gained in trade as the total income and net profit, both of them grew by 6%. HT Media, on the other hand, lost in trade today after they posted their numbers. The ad revenue growth came in sluggish at 5% on account of a higher base last year. And also the net profit came in lower than our estimates at 24.95 crores. Greenply Industries also posted a decent set, while the net profit came in higher by 15%. It was the operating margins in the medium density fiber which surprised positively, came in at 27.6% versus 19.5%, and the management indicated that this will sustain going forward. Cera Sanitary Ware also gained in trade today after their top line came in higher at 20%, which is the higher range of the management's guidance of 18 to 20%, and the net profit also came in higher by 15% at 15.6 crores. Havells was in focus because the company said that they will launch new products in the switchgear segment, and they target a revenue of 1,400 crores from the eastern region in this financial year. On the back of Skill India, stocks like Aptech Limited, NIIT, Everon and Educom, all of them gained. Also, DCB Bank lost for a second consecutive day after they posted a weak set of numbers yesterday. Also, mid-cap gainers like KPIT Technologies, Godrej and Reliance Communication kept the screen buzzing. With that, back to you.
All right, Mangalam, thank you so much for that. Moving on, the central government's been pushed to the corner as far as the new land acquisition bill is concerned. The Prime Minister today used the Niti Aayog platform to try and woo the chief ministers to support the new legislation, which has been stuck in Parliament for quite some time now. The government may be looking at a middle path, with the centre now willing to accept the proposal made by some chief ministers like Prakash Singh Badal, who have proposed that individual states are allowed to draw up their own legislation on the land bill in order to try and resolve the current deadlock. The centre is also going to look at incorporating some of the suggestions made by the state governments.
The 2013 law was passed after consultation and with a consensus. It was after a large number of chief ministers requested a change because they realized difficulties in the path of development. Subsequently, some of them representing political parties had changed their positions. I've also elaborated what most chief ministers said. Nobody disputed the proposition that land is required for development.
Okay, so that remains a point where consensus is awaited. Coal Secretary Anil Swarup is confident that the current fall in power demand is a temporary issue. Speaking to CNBC TV18, he says the Power Ministry is doing all it can to resolve the various issues ailing the state electricity boards.
A lot of good effort is being put in by the Power Ministry to see if there are any problems at that end they are sorted out. They are engaging with the state governments in terms of getting this state electricity boards going. So there is no shortage of demand for power. There is a problem, bit of a problem in purchasing power at the end of the SEBs in terms of buying power. That is being taken care of by the Power Ministry, and I think next 2-3 months we'll see a change there. There has been a dramatic improvement in terms of availability of rakes. Last year we had around 190 odd rakes. This year on an average we are doing more than 200 rakes. More than 10 to 12 rakes are already becoming available. Coal India has already placed an order for supply of another 34 rakes as soon as possible. We are looking at in all 200 rakes in the next 4 to 5 years, because we believe as the coal production gets ramped up, we'll require additional rakes to transport them. E-auction of linkages for unregulated sector in general. We had floated a paper, we've got certain responses, we've examined them, and maybe in 15 days' time we'll come up with a policy and announce what is the next line of action on that.
All right, that is the Coal Secretary promising a change in terms of power demand. Time for a break, but coming up on the other side, Jindal Steel and Power embarks on a major drive to clean up its books. Details when we come back.